What's going on, guys? Biff McBuffington here. Of course, yesterday was the first day in quite a while I actually recorded a video, and then I had to redo it because Schaub beat me to the punch with his throwback faves because in between me recording the last one and today, he put out another banger of a throwback. Here I am. And yeah, so there's this worrying new trend at the Fighter and the Kid lot because I think this is the first time in quite a while they were unable to meet their podcast obligations, and yeah, they didn't show up, and I guess Chin threw together some throwback faves to mixed reviews, as we'll get into in a minute. So I guess this all started because Callen is on vacation and he couldn't make it, which brings up a couple questions like, why didn't they just bank a couple episodes? Because that's pretty normal in the podcast sphere. You know, you obviously don't want to bank like 4 or 5 at a time like our good friends at Two Bears One Cave, but you know, doing one or two here or there, like very rarely as needed. Nobody would no one would even realize, you know. So I'm not really sure why didn't they just do that. The other thing, which is I think a little more notable, is it's basically a who's who of people who want absolutely nothing to do with these guys anymore. The biggest one is Bobby Lee here. Like why? Like why in the world would they pick Bobby Lee for the throwback faves? I mean, the answer is pretty obvious. It's because, you know, he's like a popular podcast guy. So, like, in that sense, it makes sense. But, like, if you know anything of the backstory between Bobby and the Fighter and the Kid crew, I mean, they didn't leave on the best of notes. So, it feels like pretty out of touch with reality to use Bobby in a video, like making him like basically the showcase of a video on this channel. You're probably all well aware, but if you're not, you know, like Schaub like threatened some like legal thing against Bob. I forget the details, but it was the whole like Reddit 300 pages of evidence that Bobby was like conspiring against Schaub or something. The whole thing was just like so bizarre and nonsensical. I think everybody was just very confused, Bobby included. And then there was like an apology, and they had like an intervention podcast of sorts on Tiger Belly, which is Bobby Lee's podcast. But the whole thing was just an unmitigated disaster. So then these guys decide, hey, let's just put him in a throwback video for 3 hours. So, yeah, so that's interesting. So I guess to actually review these, I hardly watched this second one. I watched about like half of this first one. They're both pretty similar in that nothing of real note happened in either of them. So if you're curious about whether you should watch them or not, I think the answer is pretty easily to just not bother. I will say in this one, towards the end here, there's a yeah, it's actually right here. So the Theo Von part, I mean, it was fine. Like Theo's just like naturally funny, but these aren't worth making a throwback video to like rehash it. But this last part, there is a part where Bobby has like a pretty, it's like a pretty heavy discussion about when his father was like literally on his deathbed, and it was like a serious yet funny story that he's telling, and there was some pretty good back and forth. So like that part, I would say it was nice to watch, but again, nothing like groundbreaking here by any means. Um, and then if we go to this one was weird. I mean, it wasn't like interesting in like a like genuine podcast sense. But I will say it was very interesting seeing this version of Schultz where he was like normal. Uh like if you watch his podcast now, which is what I guess it's like flagrant. I mean it's all like it feels like a scripted like it just feels like scripted, and everything is like over the top, and everyone's like cracking up and howling at like every single joke that's said, and it just feels like manufactured and not genuine. But like watching this one briefly, I mean, he seems like he's like a normal guy. He's not like you can tell the by his body language too. He's like a little more reserved than like normal, which it's like that was the most interesting part of all this. And that was really the only thing that was like my only real takeaway from this whole thing. Uh, it was kind of funny seeing Callen in his this is like his uniform from that TV show he was on, I guess, the Goldbergs. It's pretty funny seeing him wear that when, obviously he got canned for all that stuff that transpired. Um so yeah, I mean really that's really about it as far as like actual content of these. Um, the other part I did want to get into is the comments, because the comments are not favorable, and that's putting it pretty lightly. Normally if you skim through Fighter and the Kid podcast comments, it's like there's a lot of Reddit people on there just, dumping on them. But there's like the other half is like people being like, hey, lay off these guys. They're just like trying to work, whatever. Um, but these two videos, I mean, they're just ripping into these guys, and it's pretty bad. Uh, yeah, I mean, yeah, just it's not good. They're done. They thought I thought last week was going to be a one-time thing. Uh, I'd rather not have these at all. Nobody wants this. Is the downfall complete? Yeah. So these are just not these. It's not what people were super excited to witness. So yeah, things are not things are not looking favorable in the Fighter and the Kid household. So yeah, so here we are. So what do you guys think? Is this a sign that the ship is officially sinking, or is this just a one-time thing? I mean, I think I mentioned this, but I guess this all supposedly all happened because Callan's on vacation, but there's many ways around this if they really wanted to, like finding a guest, like anybody. I don't know if it's possible that like there's literally nobody that would want to be a guest. I mean, they could find somebody. I mean, maybe they can't. I don't know. I mean, yeah. So things aren't looking good. But we'll see what happens. I guess the other thing, why didn't they just bank episodes? I mean, that's really not that complicated. But again, maybe it is. So I don't know. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you like this crappy content, you can like and subscribe and all that good stuff. But if not, I don't blame you. So until next time, I will see you guys later.